Hi, it's Chris Gio from Merchant Method, and you are tuned in to a Merchant Method Retail Trend Report, where I combine the most relevant of industry news that I'm reading and researching with signature experience-based training so that you can build retail profit with ease. These trend reports are for independent retailers, makers, and small batch manufacturers. I'm doing something different this week. And this trend report is a return to audio because I was inspired by you and thought that you might enjoy listening to this audio at your ease and convenience. This week's trend report topic is learning why shoplifting happens and preventing it. It builds on two prior trend reports around shoplifting. And the reason why this topic became relevant is not only is it presenting itself in industry news, but I recently, as the course of what I do as a merchant, I recently conducted competitive shopping analysis. I went out there, I really enjoyed my experience, I learned a lot. One of the trends I was noticing is poor execution of some loss prevention essentials. And I shared my field guide in a trend report, and then I followed up with an overview titled Loss Prevention Essentials. Now, in that overview, I talked about three types of losses that occur and why loss prevention as a practice exists and why it's important for retailers and merchants of any sized business with any amount of revenue, whether you are direct customer facing or indirect, whether you are a retail or a maker, why every inventory based and product based business should be concerned about loss. This week, we're really diving into one portion of preventable loss, and that's external loss. There is a fantastic article in Stores that was published in mid-March titled Shoplifting's Big Driver is Grade Not Need. And, there are a few types of activities that qualify as external loss. The one that gets the most attention is theft. Theft on a grand scale, thousands of dollars, hundreds of units, and theft on an individual scale. And regardless of the scale of theft, it's meaningful. But there are other types of external losses. So they include fraud. Think the type of fraud that happens at the point of sale. It could be credit fraud or identity fraud. It could be pricing fraud, returns fraud. It could also be the fraud of purchasing items, but also stealing a few during that visit. The third type of loss is vandalism, where a customer either intentionally or unintentionally ruins an item and therefore makes it unsellable. This is often the case with items that once open can't be sold. I often think of personal care items, food and beverage items that might get ruined in the normal course of customers trying things on, as in apparel or accessories. It could also be, the accident of a customer spilling a cup of coffee as they're walking around. So these are all types of external loss, whether the loss is characterized by spilling a cup of coffee, by ruining something on accident, by intentionally trying to commit a fraudulent transaction, or by stealing to any degree. It's all external loss. But when it comes to theft specifically, that is really where I get a lot of questions around how do you prevent theft. And I hear conversations and I read recommendations around preventing theft. And the misconception really among small business owners is that cameras that record activity, that allow you to go back in history and go back in time and identify the past is what's going to prevent theft. And it's not necessarily the ability to record and the ability to go back in time to address a theft that happened. Really, when it comes to loss prevention and preventing external losses, we need to understand that there are a variety of reasons why someone steals. And we can't know all of the reasons. The article from Stores suggests that it's greed and not need. But what, those of us who have experience with loss prevention can agree on is that, 80% of theft is opportunistic. That means that when a customer comes in, a customer who steals, when that customer comes in, they don't have an intention to steal. They steal because there's an opportunity. And that opportunity could either be no one's greeted them, no one's looking, they're able to be in a section of the store that has limited visibility. But the opportunistic nature of theft makes it preventable. And that's why we're focusing first on external loss. So I want you to stay tuned to the end of this trend report, and I'm going to give you a few things that you can do that are no cost, things that you can do to help prevent theft. They're easy to assess, easy to implement, and you can do that this week. Before I dive into that, there are some really important considerations for you. So number one, be thoughtful. Safety is such an important concern, and it needs to be at the forefront of everything you do around loss prevention. This isn't about policing activity, it's about preventing loss. And number two, you need to keep it legal. And what I mean by that is that you must abide by local, state, and federal laws. In addition to being thoughtful, keep it compliant. So make sure that you're abiding not only by company policies, but also by brand vision. The second important consideration is that there are 3 keys in successful loss prevention, not only for external loss, but also when we start to dive into internal loss and operational error in future trend reports. So hurdle number 1, that, the first key that you can unlock success with is clear expectations, effective training, and adoption. So clear expectations, effective training, and adoption. Key number 2, hurdle number 2 to get past for success is consistent awareness and compliance. The pitfall I see often is that the awareness and the compliance around a loss prevention program that a business has taken the time to create, it becomes top of mind only after there's a preventable loss has happened, and not consistently. So consistent awareness and consistent compliance is key. Hurdle number 3, or key 3, is alignment of loss prevention with your customer service vision statement. The way that you serve customers is going to be an important element in how you prevent external losses. So the preventative measures that we're going to talk about, we're going to talk about 3 related to the right place of the 5 R's of merchandising, or the 5 R's of retail, the right product, and the right message. And there's a fantastic article published on Credibly from June 2016 titled Loss Prevention, 6 Ways to Combat Retail Theft in Your Store. And I'm going to talk about just a few of them. When it comes to right place, I'm referring to placement of product and the physical place of either your brick and mortar or even the physical place of where you store your inventory in the case of online only retailers. And really, I'm talking about store planning, store layout, the blueprint. And, my phrase when I'm looking at right place as it relates to loss prevention is line of sight. Do I have a direct line of sight to different areas in the business? So when I think about the store blueprint, I'm thinking about walls, about building features like sloped ceilings, cutouts that hold pipes, things like that. I'm thinking about rooms for vignettes, tiny hidden things, the features of a fitting room. So the physical space that is not movable once you move in. I'm also thinking about store fixtures. So I'm thinking about cabinets, tables, chairs, any surface, right, that might block my line of sight. So when it comes to right place, I want you to walk around your store and assess it from multiple angles. From the point of entry, when a customer walks into your store, if you have multiple points of entry, like your main door and then an adjoining door or two entrances, assess from both points of entry. From the cash wrap, from the fitting room, from different key areas of your store, just look around and see if you have quote unquote blind spots, areas where you cannot see if a customer needs your help. It helps you identify where there are potential hot spots or secret hidden spots in your store. Preventative measure number 2 is related to right product or product merchandising. And what I mean by that is I want you to think through product placement based on risk of theft. So we can all agree that a paperback book or a CD or a small bottle of perfume or a small pair of earrings are much easier to steal than a box of shoes or, a coffee maker, right? So smaller items. Think about where they're placed in your store. I supported a client once who had very small, easy to steal items right by the front door. And one of the easiest things she could do to prevent theft was place that product away from the front door, but to select an alternate location that was even more desirable to the customer, that made more sense in the customer shopping experience. And where we moved it from the front door, we moved it to the register to give the customer something to do while she was getting checked out, to encourage that last minute add-on. Think through items that require more. So that's a great example. That's one example. I would also think through items that have low risk of theft. Might they be best placed somewhere else? But the easiest thing you can do is look at the size and the shape of an item and how quickly it might be for someone to conceal it or hide it. Now, when it comes to right place and line of sight and right product merchandising, there will always be a piece of your store that can be considered a hotspot. Just because we can't have everything completely 100% visible, we're talking about product and fixtures to hold that product. So it's likely that we're going to have a blind spot. Number 2, you create a very romantic, compelling customer experience, which means you require storytelling. And you're a really good merchant, and so you're utilizing the best merchant techniques. And by nature, they may cause blind spots. So the way to combat that from a behaviors perspective is to have yourself or your team consistently circulate and just walk around the store from an awareness perspective. Because here's the thing that I want you to know, and I want you to remember and lock it into your brain and share it with your team. The best way to prevent shoplifting is to focus on customer service. I'm going to say it again. The best way to prevent shoplifting is to focus on customer service. And that's where, in my field guide from Spring Competitive Shopping, that's what really inspired me to do more research and provide more relevant training for you, is poor execution of measures that are meant to help prevent external loss, right? And so if you're merely following someone around and merely circulating and not genuinely engaging, number one, not only does it turn the customer off, but number two, it creates some inconsistency between your customer service vision, your brand, and what's actually happening. It's disparate business practices. And so not only might poor execution of techniques to prevent external loss, not only might that deter theft, it might also deter some potential sales. So when it comes to preventative measure number 3, right message, I want you to think through customer service, customer service, customer service. Again, the best way to prevent shoplifting is to focus on customer service. And the level of awareness and control and trust and credibility that you use to establish great customer relationships, those are the exact same skill set you need to establish control over your store to prevent theft. So the kinds of things you're looking at are body language. Now, I'm not talking about the body language of a security guard. I'm not talking about the body language of someone who's standoffish or, in law enforcement. I'm talking about the body language that would say, "Hi, customer, I'm here for you. I'm noticing things about you, about your style. You might like this. I'm listening to your words. I heard you say this. You might like that." Engagement. And engagement is engagement not only in words, but also in eye contact. Engagement does not happen and only take place over the course of a conversation. Engagement can look like a quick initial check-in and then give the customer some space to shop, and then a quick follow-up and give customer space to shop, and then helping a customer with product knowledge and then giving them space to decide and then checking them out. So engagement, though really unbroken during an entire customer's experience, does not mean you are talking to the customer the entire time. Right message can also include signage. So I know I've seen it, and different business owners have a variety of feelings around it. Signage. I've seen "Smile, you're on camera." The more common one I've seen is "Employees only." I've seen more direct ones: "Shoplifters will be prosecuted," not persecuted. Shoplifters will be prosecuted. So there's an array of signage. What I will say to you is really think through your customer service vision statement and what type of signage, if any, is going to be appropriate for you. And if you are not familiar with what I'm talking about, go to the trend report that is around consistent and compelling customer service part 2. In that trend report, I talk through how to create the vision statement that really enables you to lead your team and empower your team to really deliver both consistent and compelling customer service. It's in that same spirit that you will help yourself with deterring preventable losses, preventable external losses. So again, as a recap, shoplifting, by and large, 80% of shoplifting, 80% of theft is a crime of opportunity, which means it can be prevented. And preventable measures, some of the easiest things you can do to prevent are related to the nature of your store. what kind of line of sight you have, and asking yourself, can you improve it by moving fixtures around? Where is your product placed relative to the risk of theft? Can you move it in a way that really makes sense to your customers, that doesn't hinder the shopping experience, might even enhance it? And then thirdly, thinking through the right message when it comes to genuine customer service. And remember, the best way to prevent shoplifting is to focus on customer service. So don't forget, this week your homework is to identify your risk or your hot zones and to elevate your customer service so that you can decrease external theft. Join me next week. We are going to dive into internal losses as they relate to a comprehensive loss prevention strategy. And until then, this is Chris Gio with Merchant Method.